let's unhaul some books because I need the space. And I don't like keeping books unless I want to reread them. Otherwise, there's just no point in them sitting on my shelf, just taking up space and collecting dust. So I'd like to give these books to someone else who might enjoy them, might read them, reread them, love them. With all of my books that I unhaul, I just give to the charity shop. Unless it's a really nice Fairy Loot edition, then I might try and sell it on eBay. But typically I just donate them to the charity shop, and that's just what I do. The first book I'm going to unhaul is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is about Nora, who is having a really hard time in life, and she attempts to unalive herself, and she ends up in the Midnight Library. And the librarian there says that for every book in the library, if you pick it up and open it, it will take you to see what your life would have been like had you chosen a different path. So in all of your life, if you do a split decision in the moment, what would your life have been like? Say if you took the bus rather than walking, or if you, like in this situation, if she had stayed in her brother's band rather than quitting, you know. And it just takes you through all the different lives she could have had. I really enjoyed this one. I read it really quickly. But like I said, I'm not going to reread it, so I don't need to keep it. This next book I had a real debate on, which is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, because look how stunning this cover is, and I accidentally managed to get a signed copy. I just ordered it on World of Books because I wanted this cover, and it just happened to be signed, which was really cool. But so I read this 2 months ago, I think, and at the time I thought I really loved it, and I gave it 4 stars. And then, like, as I've like mulled it over, I'm like, did I really enjoy it? Did I really care? Because in my opinion, in this book, not a lot happens. So the premise of this one, basically, Miri's wife, Leah, goes on a deep sea voyage, and something goes wrong and they end up trapped under the water for, I think it's about 6 months. And when Leah comes back, she's not quite herself. She spends a lot of time in the bath. There's just something off with her. And the premise sounds really cool, but then in the actual writing and plot, not enough happened for me to want to keep it and be really gripped. Like, I was expecting more deep sea horror. When, like, my favourite parts of this book was when it flashed back and they were in the, I think they were in a submarine, I'm not quite sure. And you could see what was happening underwater, but even that didn't go really into depth. So I've decided I just don't need to keep it, even though it is stunning. The next book is The Iron Witch by Karen Mahoney. Don't have a lot to say about this one. I read it in high school. I really enjoyed it. Don't remember what it's about. And it's been long enough that I don't think I'm going to reread it. I kept holding on to it because I remembered enjoying it and thinking, oh, I'll reread that in the future. But it's been enough time that I know I'm not going to. So I may as well pass it on for someone else to enjoy. This next one's a bit of a spoiler for upcoming reading vlog I'm currently working on, but I still wanted to include it because it is part of my unhaul, and that is City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaeffer. This is the Fairy Loot edition, so it's got the really nice sprayed edges, and I think there was a slight colour change on the front, I'm not quite sure. I really enjoyed this one. So in this world, if you fall asleep and have a nightmare, you will turn into a nightmare, which is basically, you could be anything that's some sort of monster. There's massive cockroaches, there's vampires, and the main character in this, her family was killed by a nightmare, so she works to get rid of nightmares even though they terrify her. and then lots of accidents start happening around her, and it's working out whether there's something more suspicious going on than just accidents, or if there's something more sinister going on. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I'm not going to reread it, and I made a deal with myself that I'm not going to keep books just because they're pretty, even if they are gorgeous fairy loot editions. With the exception of Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I haven't read that one yet, but I've decided even if I hate it, I'm still keeping it because it's stunning. I think that's why I keep putting off reading it, because I don't want to read it and dislike it and then have me look at it and just be like, oh, but it's beautiful. So I'm just putting off reading it forever. No. You would have seen in a previous vlog if you watched it, this was just a bit of disappointment. I thought I would love it. It looked so cool. It sounded really cool, but it just disappointed me so much, and I want it out my house. Be gone. This next one is Heavier Than Heaven, the biography of Kurt Cobain by Charles R. Cross. If you don't know this about me, I love Nirvana, I love Kurt Cobain, I love everything about it. But I haven't read this since either high school or sixth form. I don't remember which one, but that was quite a time ago. But I remember really disliking this author's tone. I know Kurt Cobain wasn't perfect, you know, had his issues, but this author comes across really judgmental of him, and I've seen him in a few documentaries about Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, and I just really didn't like his tone when he was speaking either there. And I do think if you're writing an biography of someone, you need to stay unbiased, or I don't think if you have judgment or dislike maybe of the person, I don't think you should be writing about their life, because it just comes across really wrong. So that rubbed me up the wrong way, so I don't want to keep it. This next one pains me, and that is the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. They don't have dust jackets, the ones I own, because I instantly got rid of them, because why would I keep the dust jackets when I can have the stunning underneath? Like the dust jackets looked really like juvenile to me, whereas I really liked, I know it's a middle grade, but there's something more fun about this. So that's the first one. This is the second one. Like, look how gorgeous these are. And then the stunning third one. And I was really wanted to keep these because they're just so beautiful. But my issue is I loved the first one. I flew through it. And then the second one and the third one just kind of dwindled off for me. It didn't keep my interest. I think it was just where the plot went. It just didn't particularly interest me. And I thought I didn't really enjoy the first one enough to just keep the first one on its own. There's similar types of stories that I prefer, and it would be nice to actually donate them as a set for someone. So Nevermore is about Morrigan Crow, who's never fit in with her family. They call her a curse. Everything always goes wrong around her, and then one day she goes off to Nevermore, and they discover that she's a wondersmith, which isn't a very good thing in this world. And it just follows her life settling into Nevermore and her trials when she gets there. This next one is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Now, this is a tricky one because I absolutely adored this book. I gave it 5 stars and I really like the cover art. My issue with this one was when I started reading the second book. it dragged so much and I found it so tedious. I did for a while keep just this one, thinking, oh, I just like this one, I can keep it as a standalone. I did that when I kept Divergent because I didn't like the other ones in that series, but eventually I got rid of that as well. I think it's been on my shelf standing for a while, and I've just realised I now have negative feelings about the book when I look at it, because I just think, oh, that series let me down, and I don't want that negativity on my shelves. So even though I adored this one, because the second book was a disappointment, and I made it through like halfway through that book, and these are chunky books before I gave up, or like 2/3, I don't remember. So I gave it a good go, and I normally only give books 100 pages chance before, you know, you're gone, you're DNF'd. But that's how much I wanted to love this series, and it just disappointed me. This last one might upset some fancy people. It's a trilogy, and that is the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I read this in university a couple of years ago. Well, not a couple of years ago, more than that. And I enjoyed it at the time, but I remember I expected more, I wanted more. Because in this world, they use magic based off of metals, and I thought that was a really awesome concept, but it didn't deliver the way I wanted it to. So I kept meaning to reread them to see if I thought better of them, but I just haven't had the interest in rereading them. I do wonder about reading other Brandon Sanderson books, because I did in university really enjoy watching, I don't know if they're still on there, but he used to have these like writing lectures up on YouTube, and I really enjoyed watching them. I liked the way he like explained stuff, because that was when I was in my I'm going to write a book phase, before I realised, nah, I'm not creative enough for that. I don't know how people write a book, like how. So I'm really interested in his work, and everyone raves about his book, so I might try his other pieces, but I don't need to keep this series. So I've got The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages. Once again, these have really stunning covers as well. And they're really chunky to keep on my shelves if I'm... You fell down. They're really chunky to keep on my shelves if I am not that keen. It's a lot of space. You know, it's a lot of real estate that we can be giving to other books. And I need the space for other books, because buying books and reading books is a completely different hobby. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you loved any of these, and see you soon.